everyone. I am making a quilt for my sister, and it's just something that I'm working on in between other projects. So I have all my pieces in here, but I thought I would show you how I am putting this together. This whole quilt will be made using half square triangles, and I'm using the 16 at a time method here. So for these squares, they are 11.5 by 11.5 inch square, and you're going to need one of your main and one of your background. You're going to lay those right sides together. I do already have the lines drawn on all of my background pieces on the wrong side. These are just going to be my sewing guides. If you don't know how to make 16 half square triangles at a time, I do have a video on that and I will leave a link to that. But these lines are just going to be my sewing guides. I'm going to be sewing a 1/4 inch down each side of the line and then all the way around the outside of the perimeter. I think this quilt's going to look really cute when it's done, and I hope my sister's going to like it. All of these blocks are going to be finishing at 12.5, well, finishing at 12 inches. And then I plan on doing a nice sashing in between to kind of break them apart. And she does want a queen size quilt, so this is going to take me a while. That's why I'm just going to work on it in between other projects, but I figured maybe every now and then I would do a video on a different block. They are all half square triangles, but each block I'm planning on making it a different design, so it's all going to look different in the end. But I think if I pick the right sashing, it's going to come together very nicely. So once I have it all sewn, I'm going to be cutting these apart, and I still have my lines there that I drew with my heat erase pen, and I'm just going to use those as my cutting guide right now. We need to cut this in half, and that cut is going to be right in between our stitch lines. I'm just going to push that right back together so that I can make the next cut. This way I can cut both pieces at one time and I don't have to make two separate cuts. Once we have made this cut, then we will have 4 quadrants and they all are stitched completely around the outer edge. So we need to cut them apart so we can open them up. And I'm just going to heat set these seams first, just so, I don't know, it's just a habit I have and I do it all the time. And now to turn this square into 4 half square triangles, we are going to cut it in half diagonally both ways, like an X. You could draw it on there if you wanted to, but I'm just going to line up my ruler and try to make sure that I have it lined up nicely from point to point, and being very careful not to let my fabric shift around too much while I'm making this cut, because we want them, well, to be nice and have the same size all around. And then we're going to do the exact same thing to all 3 of our other pieces, and then we are going to have 16 half square triangles, and these I will be trimming up to 3.5 inches. And if you would like to know how to make different sizes, I have all of that information in my video on 16 half square triangles at a time and how to do the math on that. I'm going to be using my slotted trimming ruler here and making sure that I line up that dotted line on my ruler with my stitch line, and then just trimming it to the size that I need, which, like I said, is 3.5. And trimming these is probably my least favorite part of making these quilts, but I love half square triangles, and I'm sure anybody that's watched my videos knows that by now. And I am trying to work on some videos that don't have half square triangles for people who don't care for them. So I'm just going to finish trimming all of these up, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to be putting this block together. All right, I have trimmed them all up and I have pressed them all, and I just pressed everything to the dark side. And this did end up being a little bit bulky, I'll just let you know right now. And I think for the rest of the blocks, I'm probably going to press everything open. So basically, I am just going to lay them together and kind of figure out a pattern as I go. I do have a sketchbook where I kind of did work out a plan, but that is upstairs as well, and I didn't want to go get it. But if you look on Pinterest and look for half square triangle quilt patterns, you're going to find so many different variations. That is basically where I found mine, and I'm just kind of working out a plan in my sketchbook, but I have enough where I can start making the quilt. So I started putting them together. This one is going to end up kind of looking like a star, and I think it looks really nice. And sorry, I'm kind of out of frame here, and I will fix that shortly. This fat quarter bundle that I'm using for this quilt, I got off of Amazon. I believe it is called Butterfly Blossoms by Riley Blake. I will see if I can find it again and leave a link to that in the description box below. But you can kind of see here how the star is coming together, and I'm just going to shift everything up here so you can see a little bit better. And I'm going to lay everything out on my cutting mat here so that it's right beside my sewing machine, and then when I go to sew it together, I can just pick it up and not get everything mixed around. Well, hopefully not get anything mixed around. And once I'm ready to put this all together, I'm just going to lay it out so that I don't get anything mixed up. And I'm going to grab the first 2 blocks from the top row, lay them right sides together, sew with a 1/4 inch seam, and then grab the first 2 blocks from row 2 and then row 3. And I'm just going to chain stitch all of these together until I get all 4 rows, the first 2 blocks sewn together. And then I usually just cut the first row off of my little chain there, And then I just grab the next block from the first row and continue working my way down until I have them all sewn together. This is the method that I usually use, or pretty much all the time, and it works for me very well. But on occasion, I do still make a mistake, but that's okay. We are human and it's okay. You just learn from them and move on. And you'll see very shortly here that I did make a mistake because, well, that's just the way it was. And it was in the last row when I went to sew the last block on, I saw I made a mistake. So I had a little date with Jack. Once I had my mistake fixed, then I took everything over to the ironing board and I ironed all of my seams open here. And apparently I had a fly buzzing around here and I did not see that until I was editing it. And I'm sorry. Hopefully he's not too distracting. But I'm going to take the top row and lay it right sides together with my second row. And then I'm going to take my third row and lay that right sides together with my fourth row. This way I can just chain stitch these two rows together and then I will have two pieces. Once those are all done and pressed, we are ready. Double checking that everything is in the correct orientation and that I'm not all of a sudden accidentally sewing them together wrong because that would not be good at this point. And I did press all of these seams open, just so you know, but there it is. The first block is completed for my sister's quilt. I am looking forward to seeing what all the other ones are going to look like, and I think it's going to look really good in the end. And I hope you stick around and subscribe so that you can see what this is going to look like when it's all done. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for stopping by, and until next time.